Hello YouTube. First I'd like to apologize to my patrons and the people who watch my YouTube channel because I've been very busy in the real world and I haven't really had the time to make YouTube videos very much. So if you're contributing to me, you are not getting your money's worth and I apologize for that. I've just been too busy doing plans for something I'm working on, which I don't want to tell anyone about because I'm too scared of doxing psychopaths trying to destroy my life. So I won't say what that is, but that's what I'm working on right now and I just don't have the time to really be productive and make videos, etc. And I thought if I've got some free time I should go for some low-hanging fruit because it's a lot easier than having to put much thought into these kinds of things. I don't normally believe in lolcows, which is just people that you laugh at because you think they're ridiculous, but I'm willing to make an exception in this case, and I'd like to have a look at how Donald Trump is doing as President of the United States. I haven't necessarily talked about this subject that much on my channel, but I've talked on Twitter a lot about what a historically incompetent boob he is, and that he's a ridiculous, tiny-penised orange goblin. I don't understand why some individuals who make videos on YouTube are not able to call out this guy for what he is, which is a fucking incompetent train wreck and a disaster. Now that said, George W. Bush was himself a historically incompetent, terrible, boobish politician. I apologize to boobs, it's a bit offensive. And maybe Trump is not quite as bad as George W. Bush. I would say the only reason that we could say that now is because Donald Trump has not been in office as long. But he's been in for over 100 days now. And it's a fucking disaster. And it's not solely a disaster for people who could already see that his policies were wet, hot garbage with wet bits of dog on it that fucking... I can't do metaphors at all. I told you this was a lazy video. But also for his own followers who have seen his attempts at passing Trump Care, which is a historic shafting and murdering of poor and middle-class people by taking away and fucking up their healthcare and making it lower quality, and basically everything you don't want in a healthcare plan. Failing to get that passed was the first sign of his incredible competence and skill, not making any progress on the wall, being an international joke and being laughed at by leaders around the world, not even really knowing who the leader of North Korea is.
Have you ruled out a military strike?
I don't want to telegraph what I'm doing or what I'm thinking. I'm not like other administrations where they say we're going to do this in 4 weeks, and that doesn't work that way. We'll see what happens. I hope things work out well. I hope there's going to be peace. But, you know, they've been talking with this gentleman for a long time. You read Clinton's book, he said, oh, we made such a great peace deal and it was a joke.
Somebody who apparently wants to get a war with, but now is not too sure about because maybe he likes him because...
He was a young man of 26 or 27 when he took over from his father, when his father died. He's dealing with obviously very tough people, in particular the generals and others. And at a very young age, he was able to assume power. A lot of people, I'm sure, tried to take that power away, whether it was his uncle or anybody else. And he was able to do it. So obviously, he's a pretty smart cookie.
Because that guy's a fascist dictator who inherited everything from his daddy, and I guess that kind of reminds Trump of himself, so now he wants to buddy-buddy with that guy. Not knowing how his own role works.
News agencies need to be more responsible with how they report the news. I am so tired.
I don't think anybody would disagree with that. It's about whether or not the president should have a right to sue them.
And I already answered the question. I said this is something that is being looked at, but it's something that, as far as how it gets executed, where we go with it, that's another issue.
Not knowing about the checks and balances of the court, and finding that the only thing that he's capable of doing is passing executive order after executive order, making an ineffectual show of bombing an airbase in Syria just to prove that he's tough, even though the base was left operational, didn't blow up the runway at all, and the Make America Great Pepe people are so ignorant themselves that they flipped out about, like, oh, Trump is starting all these wars and stuff, where it was just an ineffectual show of power in order to try and get people behind him, which is what cynical politicians do. Just take a look at George W. Bush, but what he did was much worse because he invaded an entire country. And so I think Trump was reduced to saying, we have to use a show of force to get people behind us, and the mother of all bombs, which he used to blow up ISIS. And then the reaction to that afterwards, he's like...
If you look at what's happened over the last 8 weeks and compare that really to what's happened over the last 8 years, you'll see there's a tremendous difference, So we have incredible leaders in the military and we have incredible military, and we are very proud of them. And this was another very, very successful mission.
It goes boom, it makes big explosion, and then everybody is behind me, and the establishment media is like, wow, Trump's a strong guy because he made big explosion. I'm gonna blow more things up. That's a good idea. And he's reduced to those kinds of gimmicks because everything that he's tried so far has miserably failed. Now, there's been one success, so it seems, which is that they have passed Trump Care, or a heavily amended version of Trump Care, which they didn't bother reading. They didn't really know what's in it.
Did you actually sit down and read the entire bill plus all of the amendments?
I will fully admit, Wolf, I did not, but I can also assure you my staff did. We have to rely on our staff. I had many meetings within Energy and Commerce.
This legislation affects a fifth of the U.S. economy and millions of Americans. Don't you think it was important to actually sit down and read the language of this bill?
You know, I have to rely on my staff, and I could probably tell you that I read every word, and I wouldn't be telling you the truth, nor would any other member.
But it has to get through the Senate, and once it gets to Trump's desk, it may be heavily modified from what it is. But that may well turn into a success, a great success, in which lots of poor people lose access to healthcare, in which lots of people's health coverage lowers in quality, and in which lots of people will get to fucking die. And that's going to be great, because killing sick people is a wonderful idea. Yeah. And it kind of enrages me. You go back and you see the policies that Donald Trump wanted to put forth, and it was all about fucking the poor. It was all about fucking the middle class. And it's all about taking away opportunities. And yet these fucking clowns still defend this fuckface. His policies are bad. They are bad policies that hurt people. They kill people. They are negative, bad policies that redistribute the power to the rich and powerful, who are his friends. There was only two options. Option A is one that has seemed more likely so far in the first 100 days, which is that he's so incompetent he can't get anything passed. But I think people should not be complacent, because he could easily turn that around, and it's not going to be exactly what he promised on the campaign trail, because that shit was ridiculous, bunch of talking points for idiots that worked effectively because people think in these stupid sound bites. They don't even think about the possibility of building an entire majestical wall across the southern border and getting Mexico to pay for it. Ridiculous on its face. That's never going to happen in the form that he put it forth, but they may start building sections of wall. There may be parts of wall. But that was option one. Historic incompetence and failure, which he started doing so far, but he could turn around. And option number two is he's successful, and he actually does the policies which he's been saying he's going to do. And the only good parts of that policy was putting some restrictions on lobbyists, but was merely a ban on lobbying for politicians that last 5 years or something. It doesn't fundamentally impact the lobbying system. Lobbyists can still just go to Capitol Hill and bribe politicians. It's going to be a little bit harder because they're going to have to wait before they do it, and the turnaround in the lobbyists and the people they employ might be a little bit trickier. That's about it. So, I made lobbying slightly harder. It doesn't impact the lobbying system. It's made absolutely no fucking difference, to be perfectly honest. It's just a slight inconvenience that some of them are going to have to wait 5 years until they become lobbyists, and they can be working with lobbyists while not being lobbyists. I'm sure that's not going to be a problem for them. But besides that, it's basically just throwing people off healthcare roles.
My wife was diagnosed with cancer when she was 40 years old. She beat it, but every day, she lives with it. She thinks about it. Every pain, every new something going on somewhere, is it coming back? Is this cancer? Do I have it again? Is it going to kill me this time? Is it going to take me away from my children? Speaking of which, my children both have pre-existing conditions from birth. One cardiac, one thyroid. You have been the single greatest threat to my family in the entire world. You are the reason I stay up at night. I don't have any choice with an insurance company. I have no value to an insurance company. I can't do anything to their CEO. I can't do anything to their employees. Nothing. I can argue till I'm blue in the face. But a single payer run by the government, oh yeah, it's got problems, but it's also got elections, and you're gonna find that out in 2018.
Cutting taxes, shredding the social safety net, fucking up public schools, destroying unions and workers' rights, destroying women's healthcare choices and autonomy over their own body. That's the thing that is the change. That's the change that you want. There are no words. So anybody who said maybe Trump will be a decent president, you are in fucking la la land. And also, just look at the guy. Look at the way he talks. He talks like a giant baby. I'm taking crazy pills. And I was just thinking the other day, like, how do they make decisions in the Trump administration and amongst the GOP about how to do healthcare for people? Do they get in a room and they say, all right, so how many people does this healthcare bill kill? How many people with cancer does it let die? How many people does it take away their ability to get treatment so that they're struggling away in obscurity and all of their costs are building up until eventually they just fucking die in the gutter like the dogs they are? Look around the room. I think this kills about 5 million people. We got 5 million people. Can we do better? Can we do better than that? How about 7.5 million people? Could kill 7.5. Yeah, that's pretty good. But I was actually thinking more of a bill that in the long run would kill about 10 million people. 10 million people? That sounds pretty good. So we're all agreed in this room of fuck-headed right-wing cunts that we should kill 10 million people with healthcare? Great, good job. And why is it the people who spend so much of their time downplaying how shitty Trump is, they never talk about all the people that are literally gonna fucking die? What about them? Jimmy Kimmel came out with a video where he said his son was born with a heart disease, some kind of condition, which would have led to his death, but luckily he could afford to pay for his healthcare because he's rich. But under Trump care, he's taking away access to ongoing treatment and making it possible to discriminate against those kind of conditions. So under Donald Trump and Paul Ryan and the GOP plan, if Jimmy wasn't rich, would his fucking kid die? And would other people's children have to fucking die? Yes, they would die. And then people came out like, oh, that's so political. Jimmy Kimmel is just a hack. He's being all political. He's being political by saying they shouldn't let babies fucking die? You're supposed to be pro-life. Well, you care about life when it comes to controlling a woman's body. You know, but you don't care about life when they come out of the woman and they have to live in society and they need access to food and education and healthcare. Then you don't care about them. Then they can fucking die. And is it political to say your healthcare plan is literally gonna kill people? You have blood on your hands? And you're just one step removed from literally being a fucking murderer of children? No, that's not political at all. That's just facts. And then a lot of people reply, Obamacare wasn't even good. Yeah, it's not a partisan issue. Obamacare was just a Republican plan that they just adapted because Obama always wanted to compromise with these people who just don't care about people's lives at all. All they care about is money from the lobbyists and the pharmaceutical companies. Trump has done nothing to change that. They're his buddies. He's just an out-of-touch rich fuck. And you know what? I've got a plea. This is a plea from the bottom of my fucking soul. Please, God, people on YouTube. People who make YouTube videos, could you please talk about the policies? Could you just talk about the actual fucking policies for once? Could you stop talking about all this culture war shit? You know, the Pepes. We've got the Pepes versus the Antifa versus the... Who cares when things like the social safety net are at stake? Who cares when whether they're going to have fucking World War III? Because leaders like Trump and others don't even know how geopolitics works. Why will you not talk about that? Why is it always this culture war garbage? And why is it every time that somebody says, you know what, Trump's policies are fucked up and they're going to kill people, you say, well, Hillary's would have killed people too. Yeah, no shit. The system is fucked. It's a disaster. But just because something else is bad doesn't mean you can't criticize the first thing. Just because Hillary sucks doesn't mean you can't criticize Trump, who is the acting fucking president. Please, dear God, people online, focus on the actual fucking substance for once. It's infuriating. People just talk around the edges about the stupid culture war nonsense. It's like LARPing, it's like role-playing. Punching Nazis, oh, I don't know if you should punch the Nazis. Oh, role-playing as Antifa, oh, whatever. Oh, these millions of people are being thrown off healthcare because of Trump care and are literally gonna die. And the final thing before I wrap it up, recently Donald Trump fired James Comey as the FBI director. James Comey was somebody who Donald Trump in the past praised a huge amount.
There's little doubt that FBI Director Comey and the great special agents of the FBI will be able to collect more than enough evidence to garner indictments against Hillary Clinton.
Oh, and there's
He's become more famous than me.
But reportedly, James Comey started investigating the link between Trump and Russian oligarchs and the Russian government, Putin, etc. And then while he's in the middle of just beginning that investigation, all of a sudden he's fired. And apparently he was fired while he was in the middle of giving a speech. So he was giving a speech, and something popped up on a television screen saying he'd been fired, and he literally laughed and made a joke. But then when he left the stage, somebody said, Mr. Comey, come into the back room, something's happened. Mr. Trump has fired you. And he was not talked to by the administration. It was not like an actual official thing. He was fired behind his back, which is ridiculously incompetent and unprofessional. Kellyanne Conway said, "This has nothing to do with the campaign from 6 months ago. This has everything to do with the performance of the FBI director since the president has been in the White House." Roger Stone, who is a political hack merchant who has been working for Donald Trump, said, "What Comey did to Hillary was disgraceful. I'm glad Trump fired him over it." Which is very confusing messaging. I guess it's disgraceful that he didn't put her in prison, even though Trump decided to not pursue putting her in prison. So that's something that he lied about. They were literally chanting, "Lock her up," and then they didn't even pursue that. And Ben Garrison, who is this right-wing cartoonist, had a very cute cartoon where Donald Trump was sending James Comey into this pit of fire and saying, "You're fired, next," and he's cleaning up the swamp. Now the thing that's ironic about that is Trump is cleaning up a person who is looking into the swamp, which is the connections between Trump and Russia and Putin. I haven't talked much about that because I don't know. I don't know what the connection is between Trump and Russia. But Comey was investigating it. He was looking into it so that we could find out. He was trying to find information. And for trying to find out about it, he was fired. And it's kind of like a conspiracy which you can just really take on its face. Because they had no other particular reason to fire Comey except for his investigation into Russia. What was the other reason? Comey was completely broadsided by this. He had no idea it was going to happen. It's an Occam razor situation. I think we can safely say that he was most likely fired because he's investigating Trump about Russia. So what are the connections between Trump and Russia? I don't know. How much is he in Putin's pocket? No idea. Is it a witch hunt? I don't know. You know? Maybe it is a witch hunt. But how are we supposed to know that if he fires the guy who's trying to find out the information on it? How is that draining the swamp? To me, that's just putting a big sheet in front of the swamp and saying, "There's no swamp here. Don't look back here, there's nothing here." And an FBI director is not something you can just cycle through willy-nilly. You're bad, you're bad, you're bad, fight, 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 fight. Oh look, here's this shill who's gonna do everything that I want. All the time. You're hired. That's not something that you can really do. Because there's going to be a frenzy about it. There's going to be investigations about it. People are going to want to find out what the fuck happened. And it's another sign of Trump's historic incompetence. And a final little funny story on that. Press Secretary Sean Spicer reportedly hid in bushes as reporters were trying to ask him about James Comey. And when Sean Spicer finally escaped the bushes, he was asked, "When was the last time Trump and Comey spoke?" And he replied, I don't know. I don't know. There's some... I don't know. I don't know. He was asked what were the 3 occasions on which the president says Comey assured him that he was not under investigation. Spicer replied, "I don't. We can follow. I can try. Yeah." And he was asked how long did the president deliberate. And he said, I don't. I can look at the TikTok. I know that he was presented with that today. I'm not sure what time. So I think Sean Spicer is basically, I don't know what the fuck is going on with these people. I am the press secretary and I don't know what the fuck is happening because Trump is incompetent. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a fucking dumpster fire. And I pray to non-God that the Democrats put up a candidate who's not corrupted by money, comes off as genuine, actually cares about the people, and actually wants to help as many people as possible rather than appealing to the establishment, the lobbyists, and keeping the system intact and just doing nice things around the edges, because that's the way that they're going to lose. Because when you look at the way Trump is running his White House, it is so bad, anybody with 2 bits of sense to rub together should be able to capitalize on this incompetence. But I think the Democrats are also historically skilled at snatching defeat from the jaws of possibility. So we'll see how they go. And people on YouTube, could you please wake the fuck up and notice how fucking bad this presidency is. Thank you.